tutorial, we're going to be looking at the market and trying to have a better understanding of it. There's going to be a few new terms within this tutorial, so if you haven't got one already, I'd recommend grabbing a pad and pen to jot down some notes as we go along. Now, it's important that we have a good understanding as to what the market is in order to be able to understand what our market opportunities are as a business person. So what are we actually talking about when we talk about the market? Well, from a business person's perspective, when we talk about the market, we're talking about the people or persons that we sell to, whether that's a product or a service. When we talk about market opportunities, we're looking at the opportunities to be able to sell our product or services. Where there are good market opportunities in an area, we have increased potential to be able to sell our product or services. Where we have lower market opportunities, obviously the potential is lower. Have an understanding of the market and what is happening within the market at any one time is going to help a business to ensure their success. A business can ensure that they're selling their product at the best time in a particular area in order to increase their potential sales. This is therefore much more profitable and makes good business sense. So it's important as a business entrepreneur to have a good understanding of the market. Now, there's different factors that can affect the current market, and we're going to look at some of those in a little bit more detail. The first one we're going to look at is the geographic market. So this is considering location, where in the world you are selling your product or services. As a really general overview, let's compare countries, for example. Imagine you're a new company considering starting up selling wood burners to supply heat, and you could start up this company anywhere in the world. Would it make sense to start it up in a country that has a hot climate such as Australia? Or would it make more sense to set it up in a colder climate such as Iceland? Considering the geographic market in an area is going to have an impact depending on what service or good you are providing. Therefore, the location is really important to think about when you are establishing your business. This is true too on a smaller scale, so even considering the county that you're working from within, or the towns even. The geography of that area can have an impact on the market. The next theme we're going to explore is that of the demographic market. If this is a new term to you and you're not familiar with it, I would definitely recommend you write some notes here. When we talk about the demographic of an area, we're talking about factors such as the average age, the education, the occupations, the gender, the race, and the employment status of that particular area. Now, there are going to be variations with any demographic, but we can make general sweeping statements. We know that there are some areas, for example, within the UK that are wealthier than others. There are some areas that have particular races more than others. There are some areas that have better education than others, and all these factors refer to our demographic and can have an impact on the market. If an area is not wealthy, for example, then a product or service that is considered an expensive one is not going to succeed as a business in that area. When we talk about the economic market, we're generally talking about the financial state of the economy, and this tends to affect countries. It can have a bigger impact on small groups of people, but generally speaking, if the economy is doing well, the UK, for example, as a whole will be doing better. If the economy crashes, it will have an impact on the entire UK. Admittedly, it tends to have a bigger impact on those from the poorest areas as they're already in a struggling and poor situation. The aim of many governments when considering the economy is to keep prices stable and unemployment down. This helps the economy grow and to be more successful. When the economy isn't doing so well, that means generally speaking, people don't have as much money to spend out. They're not going to be buying or paying for products and services that they don't necessarily need. When the economy is doing really well, then the opposite is true. People may be more willing to spend out on items or services that are considered luxury rather than necessary. If the economy is in a crisis, that doesn't necessarily mean that a business or service can't do well and be successful. It really depends on what the service or the product is. For example, if people are trying to be more careful with money and they have a growing family, and you design and make children's clothing that can grow with your child, for example, it extends out, in theory, they are potentially going to be saving themselves money over time because they don't have to keep purchasing new clothes to fit their growing children. As another example, if people were struggling financially and looking at ways to save money, they might look at their food purchases. A family might decide that actually meat is a very expensive luxury item to have on their food bill every week and might start looking for ways to reduce this from their food bill. Therefore, a company such as a greengrocer might actually start doing better in terms of business if more families and more people are considering this switch. On the flip side of this, if you were a computer games designer and you released a brand new computer console that was quite expensive, you might want to consider the economy at that particular time. If you were in the middle of an economic crisis where people don't have as much spare money, is it likely that they're going to be able to spend out on something that's considered a luxury item rather than a necessity? Or would you be better to delay the release of this product until such time as the economy recovers and people have more spare money to spend on such items? Now let's look at the social and cultural environment and how this might impact on the market. When we look at this theme, it further drives home the importance of knowing and understanding your target market. Different groups of people can have different opinions, beliefs and feelings about certain products and services. It's important that you really understand who your target market is and what it is they want. An example of this is, for example, looking at different groups of people who might have different beliefs about their diets. Veganism, for example, is massively on the increase in younger people. If you were looking to open up a new restaurant in an area that actually had a demographic that was full of younger people and your focus was solely on meat dishes and didn't cater for vegans, this might be a poor business decision. However, choosing to base a vegan-based restaurant in an area that you know to have a large number of younger people, where there is a good chance there's a portion of them who are vegans, would be a good business decision. Culture as well has a big impact on terms of the market. The UK is a great example of a country that has lots of different cultures within it. We're very diverse, and therefore this actually opens up lots of opportunities for different markets. In terms of a business or service provider, there are lots of target markets that have different cultural needs, for example religious needs or dietary needs. You only have to walk down a standard high street in the UK and you could probably count half a dozen different types of food establishments selling different foods from around the world. This is a good example of how our culture has affected our market. And finally, it's important to consider any potential competitors. If you're considering opening a new shop or service on a high street that has 5 other similar shops all competing for the same business and the same customers, it might be a real struggle as the new business coming into the high street. Competition can be healthy, as it can encourage better quality products or services and it can encourage more value for money for the customers. But if the business or the marketplace is flooded with too much competition, it can make it really hard to succeed in that area. You might find it better just to look at a different demographic, for example just move to a different area where there's less competition, or adapt your goods or service so it's offering a slightly different service. It might be an idea to look at a different target market and see if you can offer them a service that nobody else is offering yet. There's no point competing with other people who are doing exactly the same as you. Effectively, you're just reducing down the amount of potential profit your business can make. That being said, if you think you can do a better job and you're offering a better service, then that competition could be a good option for you. It's all about weighing it up and considering and figuring out what is your best option. As with all of these things, being able to complete good research looking into each of these issues before you launch a new business or product or service is going to give you the best chance of succeeding as a new business.